playing with confidence. Serves it inside 50.
Inside 50, good hands.
Drilling it into centre half forward. That was end-to-end football at its best.
Back-to-back goals either side of quarter time.
They have done it, the Bulldogs!
I'd find somebody for you. There ain't no wall I will run through. In your corner when you're ringing the bell. Come hell or high water. I'd find somebody for you.
Yes, hello WAFL fans. Welcome one and all to another massive edition of Around the WAFL. And massive doesn't really do it justice because it is the long weekend that is among us. Yes, the WA Day long weekend of football. One of the great weekends on the WA football calendar. And on today's edition, we're going to preview all the big matches in the WAFL and the WAFLW, as well as on location. We're heading down south to Mandurah for the first time, and also chatting with Subiaco gunner and reigning Dara Kerr medalist Krstel Petrevski. That is on today's preview edition of Around the WAFL as we build up to the WA Day long weekend. It's all thanks to Grant's Car Stereo, Front Row Screen Sports, Sullivan Logistics and District Promotions down at East Vic Park. My name's Paul Persick. Great to have your company on the Around the WAFL YouTube channel and wherever you get your podcasts, in a collaboration with Front Row Screens and Associates, the WA Sporting Hub. And alongside me, as you can see and hear, he is the number one radio voice on the airwaves as part of Sport FM's award-winning WAFL commentary team. It's a pleasure to have Jacob Landsmeer proudly representing Sport FM on today's show. Welcome along.
Paul, thanks for having me. Great to be here on Around the WAFL, and what a weekend, as you painted the picture so beautifully. We've got a magnificent weekend coming up of football. WA Day Monday, the two derbies is always a great highlight on the calendar. So looking forward to talking about it on the show.
And you've got two games coming up on the call as well, and we'll talk about those in just a little bit. So get that voice warmed up, my good man. First of all, before we get into the action, we're going to look at all the news that has been leading into this week of WAFL football. First off, three key WAFL players out suspended during the week. The biggest of the lot is a Bulldog champion.
Well, Matty Parker's a huge loss. He's had a pretty frustrating year, hasn't he? He's only played 2 games, hamstring, and then back from the hamstring on the weekend. And he's out for 3 weeks with that, quite a strong incident, wasn't it, with Toby Jenkins from Peel to cop a 4-match ban down to 3 with an early plea. Souths opted not to challenge the ban at the tribunal and risk the extra game. So he misses a good chunk of football. We won't see the best of Matty Parker, Paul, until probably round 13, 14, 15. Souths will be hoping their season's still where it is now, and they've got a genuine chance to push for top 2 again, as they did last year in that memorable premiership.
Well, Matty Parker won't play again until round 12, taking in the bye that they've got in round 10. And that mid-season point and the late-season point heading towards those final 4 rounds are going to be very critical. And think about this as well. A couple of South Fremantle players are jetting off to Europe mid-season as well.
Well, hasn't that been a talking point?
Yeah.
So Noah Strom, premiership fullback, and Trey Rusco, their champion forward who came over from West Coast WAFL team and Collingwood previously to that. So, yeah, 2 major losses at either end of the ground. And I say with Matty Parker, the reason that it's going to take him to around 14 or 15, you said rightfully it's round 12 he'll be back. But because he hasn't had any continuity in the way his season's gone...
We mustn't forget the quad issue that he had in the pre-season.
Well, so he missed round 1, he played round 2, was best of field in round 2.
He was, yes.
And then got injured in the warm-up in round 3. First game back on the weekend, round 7, and gets rubbed out. So it's a frustrating year for Matty Parker, runner-up in the Sandover medal last year and one of their best in their premiership. And clearly AFL experience counts for something. So the Bulldogs are going to be missing some key players. They're 5-2, their season's still where it needs to be, but... yeah, they wouldn't want to lose to their arch rivals, East Fremantle, on Monday. That might see the season go into a bit of freefall.
It certainly could be, but it certainly could create a lot of intrigue as to where the season will be after that weekend. Speaking of East Fremantle, another player has copped a suspension. This time 1 week. Cameron Erdley also was booked for striking in their win over the West Coast Eagles. So that's a major loss to the Sharks' backline.
It's a bit of a brain snap from Cam, to be honest. He got suspended in the pre-season.
He
was lucky to be, that was overturned at the tribunal, so he was free to play. That was round 1. So it happened in the pre-season and he got away with it. But to do something similar again and get booked for striking, just silly from an experienced player on a big day for his club. It's the marquee game of the season, the Sharks. Massive game for them. I mean, they're 3-4. Their season could go either way still. They've had a lot of injuries. They need their best players to be out there. And for him to be missing, I don't reckon Bill Monahan would be all that pleased with that. So they've chosen to accept the suspension, and that's a pretty big hole to fill in that back line.
Certainly will, no doubt about that. Of course, the teams will be out during the weekend as the game is on the Monday. And who's going to fill in those big shoes of Cameron Erdley as a result of that suspension? And Clermont's forward line has been hit as well, heading into their game on Saturday against Subiaco. Jaden Hunter also suspended, and that does leave a bit of a hole in Clermont's forward line.
It does. We broadcast that game on Sport FM. It was a long way off the ball, that incident with Ethan Regan, so it was a strike to the stomach, and the umpire saw it, put him straight in the book, and the tribunal has deemed it to be a 2-week ban down to 1. So Claremont have opted not to appeal. Again, it's just not worth the risk, is it? In the AFL, you can appeal and it won't risk you the extra game. It's a fine now, but in the WAFL, it's still the old-fashioned, you risk the extra week. So Claremont missed their key forward against Subi. I think it's a really good test for Claremont now, Paul, to see how they go without him. So how does the forward line look with Gowdy, who's struggling for form, Van Rooyen, who had a quiet game against East Perth, and a couple of others.
DeLacy as well.
DeLacy's had a good season, Alec Waterman. So we'll see what their forward line looks like without the extra tall down there in Jaden Hunter, leading goal kicker last year, and their leading goal kicker this year.
Former Essendon and Perth player as well. So how will the Claremont forward line fare? We'll break that all down in a bit of detail as we look forward to the matches on the weekend. But those three big stars out for this weekend. Swan Districts. Now, they are in the news this week, but for the right reasons. Of course, as we know, earlier in the week, the football world lost the great Neil Danaher, inspirational fighter in the campaign against MND after a 13-year battle. This year, the fight against MND and the big freeze events take on extra significance. And Swan Districts, they're one of the clubs that are getting right behind it on Saturday before their game against Perth.
Well, they can be trailblazers now, can't they? I mean, hopefully we see more of this across the WAFL. Congratulations to Jared Wright and his team. Jared Wright's the new CEO at Swans. Should be a great day. It doesn't sound like the rain's going to arrive till later, so hopefully a good crowd turns out. Some celebrity dunkers.
Yeah.
So look forward to seeing some go down the slide.
Scotty Cummings among those.
They're going to have enough water, do you reckon?
Or maybe for Tony Knott as well. Imagine if he'd be fitting into that pool because he's that tall.
Well, he certainly is. And Nick Nat's there. I don't think he's getting in the water, but he's going to be there as a bit of a guest MC on the day. So, yeah, great celebration. Brad Wirra, the CEO of WA Football, new CEO, he's going to be a dunker as well. So.
Talon Ames as well.
Oh, Amesy. There's a man who you should get him on this show if you haven't already, because he can talk underwater. So should be a fantastic day. He might actually talk underwater when he gets dunked.
Maybe.
That might be something that we see from Talon Ames. But premiership defender, so yeah, great initiative. And as you rightfully said, I mean, what a great figure Neil Danaher has been. Sad to hear of his passing, but I mean, he's a footballer who had injuries. He's an AFL coach who was good, but unfortunately didn't win a premiership. But he'll always be remembered for what he did in the last 12 years of his life, battling motor neuron disease, and he was a figure for those who were struggling. And Jai Arrow, the NRL player, just recently diagnosed.
That's right, yeah.
And a few others who've sadly been diagnosed at a young age. Hopefully we can find a cure, and Neil Danaher will be forever remembered for what he's done. And the big freeze at the G is probably the best day, one of the best days on the calendar now because of Neil Danaher and the Fight MND organisation. So, yeah, sad to lose him, but great to hear that people are still picking up the slack and looking to do their bit to beat the beast.
Absolutely. It's great to see the WAFL clubs getting behind it as well. Swan Districts, as you rightly point out, they can be called the trailblazers in this competition. We certainly hope for a great turnout and look forward to seeing all the celebrity sliders over there, in particular all the football stars.
Would you go down the slide if asked?
Yes, I would.
How do you reckon you'd go with the cold water? Because I can say for all your Around the WAFL audience, last year, for a Sport FM Radiothon event we did, myself, Matt Grublich and Tony McCall, great WAFL figure, all were required to get in an ice bath. We raised $5,000 and we all got in an ice bath. I thought it'd be fine. It's not as fine as you think it'll be.
Ooh.
It's a very, very, very cold scenario. And to think that footballers do that after every week and elite athletes, I don't have a hat on, but if I did, I'd tip my hat to you because it's a very impressive effort.
Yes, it certainly is. A job well done to you and the Sport FM colleagues on that last year's Radiothon. This year, of course, not too far away as well. Shout out to all our wonderful team at Sport FM putting the Radiothon together, coming up very, very shortly. Great effort by the Swans as well. And finally, as part of our news portion here on Around the WAFL, South Fremantle, of course, they had Jackson Artemis playing their premiership. He left the club at the end of last year to play with Tasmania. All of a sudden, he's now travelling to his third state in less than 6 months.
Well, he's seen a few different parts of this great country and a few frequent fly points. A great opportunity for him. I mean, unfortunately, it's been confirmed he's got a calf concern, he's going to miss an early opportunity to be an AFL footballer. But he's on the list and hopefully can show everyone why he was so highly regarded. Richmond wanted him. Richmond lost to Essendon last Friday night in the AFL, so the Bombers got him with pick one, and yeah, he's got all the skills, doesn't he? He uses the ball well. He's got elite speed. and he played in a Bulldogs premiership as a teenager last year. So he's already achieved a fair bit for a young man, and hopefully can show all AFL onlookers why he's such a talent.
Well, with the fact that no current WAFL players got picked up, obviously Jackson Artemis, WA boy, WA background, but no current players, is that an indictment on the level of talent that we have? I still feel it's very high quality of talent, or has it been an oversight on the part of all the selectors of the 18 AFL clubs to not pick a current WAFL player? I think it's on, the former side, the first part of that. I think, the quality of talent is there.
I agree. Look, this is a really topical subject, clearly, this week. There's going to be times where elite players are overlooked. I mean, Milan Murdoch this time last year, we sat there and said, why can't he get an opportunity? This year I say, why doesn't Zach Mainwaring get an opportunity?
Kane Bevan as well.
Jasper Peace. There's so many out of the WAFL. Jake Suter played a brilliant game for East Perth on the weekend.
Did, yeah.
So there's players out there that are good enough. What I would say, Paul, is we saw the state game a couple of weeks ago. Great win for WA.
Superb.
Yet there were more South Australian players taken out of that game than there were West Australians.
What game were those selectors watching?
Well, does that tell you that the game wasn't what they were looking for, that they'd obviously made up their mind already? Because there were some players that played in that game that were drafted. Caleb May was drafted on Tuesday night, the big ruckman from West Adelaide.
That's right.
I would say he didn't have a spectacular game.
And out of the 5 players from Woodville West Torrens, 3 of them got picked up.
Yeah, and Scott Jones probably had the better of the ruck battle with Caleb May in that game, yet no one mentioned Scott Jones' name. So what recruiters are looking for and what we see in the WAFL on a week-to-week basis are two different things. I would have liked to have seen a couple of players go, but I reckon all WAFL clubs are breathing a sigh of relief. If you're Ash Prescott, you would have just opened a bottle of red after the... And I know he wouldn't say this publicly, Ash, but he would have been delighted to know that he's got Zach Mainwaring and Jasper Peace for the rest of the year.
Same case with Paul Sanzoni, the West Perth coach, and Mark Stone from Perth, with Josh Edwards being touted as a possible mid-season draft pick, but not getting picked up. That's all the big news from the week. We're going to clear a quick break, and when we do come back, we'll preview all the big action from the WA Day long weekend that is coming up. 5 big games of football across 3 great days. It's all thanks to Grants Car Stereo, Front Row Screen, Sullivan Logistics, and District Promotions. We'll be back right after this.
Take it from me, great things happen at the WAFL.
Valentine Roads and goals.
With free entry for kids, future stars on the ground, and a kick to kick at every break. The WAFL is where footy memories start and legends are made. Follow the WAFL on socials or get to a game.
Hey Siri, how to connect Bluetooth to Mac truck?
Sullivan 2, what's your position?
Just a midfielder, mate. On your left. Oh, come on, get out of the way.
Stereo Morley, proudly supplying and fitting quality car stereos for over 15 years, selling top name brands like Alpine, Focal, Rockford Fosgate. From a simple upgrade to complete custom systems, stop in and see Grant and the boys at 61 Russell Street, Morley, or visit us online at carstereo.com.au.
Back with us here on Around the WAFL. Paul Purse against Sport FM's number 1 from the award-winning WAFL commentary team. Jacob Landsmeer is with me this week to preview all the big action. And let's get right to it, Jacob. Western Suburb Showdown to begin the great weekend of football. Sullivan Logistics Stadium from 2:30 on 7 Plus and also on Sport FM as part of their game of the day. Subiaco and Claremont. And following the results last weekend, this game takes on a new life.
It does. Look, Subi have been much better this year under Jared Schofield, without a doubt. I mean, it's nothing against Bo Wardman. It reached a bit of a natural conclusion last year. Subi needed, I say a fresh set of eyes. It's a former set of eyes, a premiership coach of repute at Subiaco and time in the AFL. But yeah, they've recruited well. Jacob Light's been superb. He comes up against his old team here. The Silver Spoons will be flying, as you mentioned, the Western Suburbs Derby. So should be a really good contest. Hunter's a loss for Claremont. Subiaco will get Greg Clark back. He's been out with suspension, so they bring back their skipper. I think Claremont will win this game, but it wouldn't surprise me if there's a surprise or two in store.
The case for Claremont you present is very good because of the experience and depth that they've got, and it's not just on their forward line. Their midfield is obviously going to be one that's going to possibly make a difference in the end for Claremont because of their ruckman, Oliver Eastland, Bailey Rogers, who's had a great start to the season, currently leading our WAFL Player of the Year, and also the likes of Western England, the Sandover medalist from 2024. They do a great job in getting the ball first to the football, I should say, and then getting it out of the centre. But for Subiaco, I reckon they can match them, especially with the new option in the midfield in Marlon Corbett. Now, he was moved from the back line to the midfield in their win over Swan Districts, and that move presented instant value. Added some more pace to Subiaco's midfield, so it might be a battle of pace in the middle.
I like that. Yeah, and Marlon Corbett's been a very good player for the last couple of seasons off Gold Coast's VFL program, so still a young man. He might be one we hear about as a draft prospect in the coming years. Does Greg Clark's return change the balance of the midfield, though? Does Corbett slide back to half-back? Greg Clark's an inside mid, so it's not quite a like-for-like. Corbett's got genuine speed, as you point out, so that's an interesting one. But Jared Schofield's flipping the magnets, which you love to see as a fan.
You've got to experiment as a coach, and Jared Schofield's got the capacity of doing that. So too is Ash Prescott. Now, he's not afraid to move all the magnets. As we have seen in the early season, we saw him moving the magnets in round 2 when they beat Peel Thunder by 11 points. So Ash Prescott and Jared Schofield, they've both got similar traits as WAFL coaches, so it might be a battle of the coaches here. Schofield versus Prescott, one wrong move could spell disaster.
Yeah, and I really like Zach Mainwaring as a midfielder this year. That's probably what's propelled him to the circumstance where he could have been a Tuesday selection in that mid-season rookie draft. So he gives them another look through there. I mean, Bailey Rogers can play forward, midfield, same with England, same with Mainwaring. So they've got enviable depth. And when you talk about a coach, Ash Prescott, fantastic coach, and I think the Tigers will be ready to rebound after the disappointment of last week.
Would you think Rogers could play that role as that, one small forward that, really make up for the loss of Hunter? Because he can drift up forward. Primarily he's a midfielder, we know that, but, he's got that capability of playing as that small forward and, taking the game out of the opposition.
It's a tough matchup because, he marks the ball well above his head, he's strong, and he makes good decisions. So, he could play forward, absolutely, but I reckon if it's 5 minutes to go, you need a goal, you need a clearance, you probably put him in the middle first, don't you?
True, but the forwards have struggled.
Chicken or the egg, you need the ball out of the middle to get it to your forward. So I reckon Bailey Rogers is a first-choice midfielder, but he's certainly an option to swing forward.
Gyro and Mayo could be additional choices up forward as well if the game is pretty much in the balance with 5 or 10 minutes to go, as you said. Mayo playing a good role as a midfielder forward, Gyro likewise. So, they've got a very flexible lineup, Subiaco, and, with the fact that Clark's back from suspension, Corbett can add some pace in the midfield, Schofield's willing to throw the magnets around and take the risk, I'm going to go the other way. Okay. I'm sensing a bit of an upset here. Subiaco, not by much, you would think. It's going to be a close game.
I'll throw one out there for your audience on Around the Waffle. Jack Mayo could win the Sandover medal this year.
Ooh, that's not a bad selection.
He's playing well enough. He's coming off a best and fairest season last year for Subi. I reckon he's gone to another level this year with the way that he's playing. Ruck forward, gets a lot of the ball. He's sort of averaging between 15 and 20 touches. He's kicking 2 goals a game. Just keep an eye on Jack Mayo for the Sandover medal at the end of the year.
You heard it here first.
Probably not the popular opinion right now, but I reckon he's one that's going to poll very well on his early season form.
You heard it here first on Around the Waffle. Sport FM's number one, alluding Jack Mayo for the Sandover medal at this early stage of the season, but you do present a very good case. You've gone Claremont, I've gone Subiaco. Should be a great game to begin the WA Day long weekend. And then it's off to Bassendean for the second game of the weekend, the big freeze game in the WAFL. I'll be on the call with this one along with John Townsend on 7+ from 2:30. Swans and Perth. Now, many have said Perth by how much, which I think is pretty much unfair because Swan Districts have been very competitive at home. The only problem is, as we go into this game, how well are their last quarters? Unfortunately, not very good. The only last quarter that have propelled them to victory was the round 3 game against West Perth. So if the game is in the balance, they're really going to have to put out their best, beyond their best, against the Perth side who are back in the winning vein.
Yeah, and I think it's been a problem for Swans beyond this year. Those numbers are all very accurate and relevant, but I think it's been a problem for Swans longer than that. So is it mental? Is it a physical issue? Are they not running out games well? It'll be a test this week against Perth, who look on top of the ground, crushed West Perth last week. So I'm looking forward to this game. I agree with you on Swans. They're one of the better 2 and 5 teams after 7 games. But, You don't get any additional points for effort.
That's right.
Only get premiership points for victories. This is a bit of a rivalry game as well. It is a round of rivalries in the WAFL. And I wouldn't be surprised if Swans caused a bit of a boil over, but I think you'd have to lean towards Perth as they push for that drought-breaking premiership that's eluded them for so long.
You talked earlier about the rain not coming in till later in the game, but it does present a bit of a leveller because obviously with the rain that we're getting in the lead-up to this game, it will make the ground very muddy, very slippery, so it's going to be all about who adapts the better in these wet conditions, and the small brigade midfield, I reckon, are going to have a hell of a time.
You'd imagine so, yeah, and Swans and Perth have some very potent midfielders. I mean, Charlie Constable's the reigning Sandover medalist, Brandon Parfitt. And yeah, Swans, I mean, they've found some players this year. I really like the look of young Leo Steed. He's one that's he's going to turn a few heads in his draft year, and clearly someone like a Jesse Turner. Clint Hinchliffe, the cricket convert, has been brilliant as well. So there's plenty of excitement in Swans midfield as well. But Perth probably just have the edge in that part of the ground for me.
Swan District's forward line has an edge of its own, William Reedy. And when he's got the ball in his hand, he is a freak, that bloke. He can create magic wherever he goes. I've been very high on Liam Reedy this year, and I will again. The wet conditions are going to suit him very well. He's a very mobile forward, and whenever he gets the ball in his hand in any conditions, he's able to maintain his balance. And whatever defender is going to be matched up on Reedy has got his work cut out because he can elude you left, right and centre because it's the old case of blink and you miss it if William Reedy's your opponent.
Well, he's having a career best year, isn't he?
Oh, yeah.
He's played 100-plus games. So for fans of this show and people who follow the WAFL, he's not a new name, but he's had a breakthrough year. And he'd be 27 now, but made an unbelievable first impression. First game back in 2018, Jai Reedy, as he likes to be called, William Reedy on the birth certificate, 4 goals won from 5 touches in his first game. So talk about making your kicks count. He certainly did then. And he's been a very serviceable player for a long time. But this has been a year, I know you called one of his superb marks and he's kicked some great goals. He'll be one worth the price of admission on Saturday, and I know you'll be looking forward to calling him in action.
Small forward line, I reckon, could be the advantage for Swan Districts, but then again, Perth have a similar forward line of their own, led by Aaron Clark, Lockie Payton, who kicked 5 against West Perth, and Kane Johnston, who's starting to get back into some form, kicked 4 goals against the Falcons. I'm going to go with Perth in this one, but not with a lot of confidence.
Yeah, Demons for me as well. They've got too many goal-kicking options. Swan's still relying on a few. And I think it'll be a Demons win at Bassendean on Saturday.
Should be a good game, that one, no doubt about it, in the wet and windy conditions over there. Sunday we go to a standalone game on Sunday at 1:10, live on 7+. It's the quote-unquote alignment derby, if you will. I'm on the call with this one as well with Darren McDonald, so the voice is going to be at V8 levels on Sunday. West Coast and Peel Thunder was down at Peel training to begin this preview of this game, and they often talked about, a month of consistency. This begins a month of consistency that's going to be vital for both Peel and the Eagles heading into their mid-season point when the buys come in, because you're going to have your games, then you have a bye, and then you have your games, then you have another bye. So for the sides playing on Sunday, a win here is a must.
It's a really good point you raise. The season loses a bit of momentum as we get towards June, July. I'm not a huge fan of these multi-buys. I know the clubs are, speaking to some of the players and the support staff. It's a long season and they enjoy a weekend off or two. But it does mean when you play sort of 2 games on and then a bye and then another couple and a bye, you've really got to find some sort of continuity when it's not really afforded to with that fixture.
That's right.
West Coast are going nowhere for me. I know they've won games this year, but they continue to drop games with strong teams. I mean, on the weekend, Brandon Starcevic, who's a dual Premiership Brisbane Lion, and I know he's playing on limited minutes, East Fremantle have struggled to score this year. They're probably the worst team for points for in the comp. They were before last round, and they were able to kick 100 points. And West Coast have 13 AFL-listed players running around. That's not a great sign for me. I look at Peel, they're hungry. The Dockers are playing really well at AFL level. Those players, Hugh Davies had a superb game, 20 marks.
Did, yeah.
Brilliant. I just think Peel have got too much to play for with their Dockers going well. The Eagles still in that period of transition. I know there's rain forecast, particularly for Sunday, but I reckon it'll be raining goals for the Thunder as well.
That's a good point that you make. You make a good case for Peel Thunder, but keep in mind when they last played in round 16 of last year, it was in similar conditions and the Eagles were able to get to within a couple of goals of Peel Thunder, but it's obviously a different side with, about 15 or 16 listed AFL players they've had on average this season. Peel, with their cap raised to accommodate the new 23-man format in line with the AFL, they've handled it a little bit better. I don't expect this one to be a blowout, however. It's easy to say because of the rain, there's a lot more contested football football. But, the Eagles, they have been competitive. They haven't been smashed by 100 points on a consistent basis. You have, your WAFL players that haven't really had the chance to break free into the AFL squad, like Duff Tytler, Dewar, who's been one of the Eagles' best, Gross, Hall, and also the likes of Owies, who kicked 5 goals in a WAFL game weeks ago against Swan Districts in that 1-point win on the Anzac Day round. So they've got some players there that can give the Eagles a bit of a spark, but the Thunder's depth is a lot more experienced and consistent, especially through Sharp in midfield. He's accumulating a lot of possessions. Jago Mira was serviceable in his return from the facial injury. And Hugh Davies, as you mentioned, he is that pillar in the defensive 50. He'd be like a brick wall with the way he's playing.
Absolutely. Now, again, for your audience here on Around the WAFL, I will say right now, if we stop the Sandover count, I know we made a case for Jack Mayo earlier in the program, Jeremy Sharp's winning the Sandover after 7 rounds. He's the leader at this stage, and that's not going to go down well because there are people, and I'm sure in your audience, that say, well, the WAFL is about the WAFL, and it's about WAFL players winning the Sandover. Now, Jeremy Sharp's a Dockers listed player. He's played AFL football this year.
Yes.
But I do think he's a legitimate chance to win this year's Sandover medal. Opportunities at AFL level are going to be fleeting because of the Dockers' depth and their success to start this year. So Jeremy Sharp will be leading the Sandover after 7 rounds. And if he plays, I'm going to say if he plays 12 games this year out of the 18, he'll poll enough votes to count. He is a standout player.
That could be the fewest games that you'd play to win the Sandover medal.
Josh DeLuca finished second, I reckon, a decade ago, and he missed 5 or 6 games. But yeah.
Didn't Blaine Boakhurst win and he missed the final 3?
Yep, good point as well. So there's a couple. But I do think that 12 games will be enough to see Jeremy Sharp poll. He's best on almost every week for Peel. And I think even in wet conditions here, he'll be hunting another 3 Sandover votes.
I mean, they say I make the outlandish calls. Look what's to my right here.
Come in with a bang, Paul. I'm not here to make up the numbers.
Off the long run.
I'm here to give my best.
Off the long run. Well, you're giving more than your best, mate. So far, so good. But we're not disagreeing here. We've gone with Peel Thunder in this one by about a couple of goals at least. In the wet conditions too.
There could be thunder in more ways than one.
Oh.
If that forecast comes to fruition, Paul, there'll be thunder and lightning, and it will be very, very frightening for the Eagles.
Mark Reddings will have something to say about that. He's got the copyright on that.
I'm not sure about that. I just hope he's singing Suspicious Minds, the most electrifying man in WA football. I've heard you on the karaoke tools, Skeet. I'm a little bit concerned about what you're getting up to in your spare time.
Oh, no. See, he's been called out. I cannot believe it. It's at everything.
Back to the great man too.
He's at everything here on Around the WAFL. Unbelievable. Now, speaking of awesome, speaking of electrifying, we go to Monday, one of the big days on the WAFL calendar, the People's Derby at Fremantle Oval at 1:10, live on Channel 7 and, of course, on Sport FM with a big build-up from 12:50. It's East Fremantle and South Fremantle from Fremantle Oval. With both sides' results last week, this one also takes on a new life of its own, and especially with the wet conditions forecast, it could have a derby that could have everything.
Well, if there's water, who does it favour? Who likes the water more, Sharks or Bulldogs?
Sharks.
That might be East Fremantle's best chance in all seriousness because if it's a dry day, I think Souths have too much skill. Last year it rained. It was a really wet day last WA Day Monday and the Bulldogs were too good. So maybe we're reading too much into the weather conditions. Form lines are interesting. Souths, as you say, had that loss to Peel. Sharks had a good win over the Eagles. No Erdley, that's a loss.
But they did bring back Marsh, Harrison Marsh.
Yeah, and John O'Marsh is having a brilliant year down back. Redeployed as a defender. Bill Monahan's getting the best out of him. Marlon and Bailey shared 5 goals between them. They're generally defenders. I don't know if you can bank on that every week. They've got a few young key forwards, notably Griffin Vladic. Liam Robinson's come over from the Sandful. They can kick a winning score. But
Oscar Smart as well.
Oscar Smart's been very good. But I think Souths have got enough weapons here. Rusco's going to return for the Bulldogs. Noah Strom down back is going to be at his best. And I just think their midfield, even missing Parker with Florenka, Winder, Bletchenden, they've still got enough power there to overwhelm what'll be a plucky East Fremantle on the day.
Well, we are reading too much into the wet conditions. I will agree with you on that, but because we had similar conditions last year and South Fremantle had the best start. But if it's very muddy and slushy, then it could favour the small brigade over there at East Fremantle, especially the young boys that have not experienced a WA Day Derby as of yet. So the hunger, I reckon, is going to be there.
We'd hope so. I mean, it's a marquee day on the WAFL calendar. If you can't get up and about for your biggest rival, and I mean, it is the WA Day, it is the Derby in WA football that defines the state. Look, people will say, come on, Jacob, it's West Coast Fremantle. But no, there's been nearly 400 Fremantle derbies. This rivalry goes back pre-1900s. So that's how far back we're going. And, yeah, it's stopped many a person in their tracks. If you go down to the Port, you'll see Sharks and Bulldogs fans everywhere on Monday, and it'll be a cracking contest, and it's the derby here in Western Australia for me.
And like you said, it is the Sharks' best chance, and I reckon they'll get up. I reckon they could get up here. I just have a feeling in my gut that the loss of Parker South Fremantle's midfield is stacked, but Parker brings that extra spark, and they've barely got out of second gear, South Fremantle. Think about it. The win against West Perth, they should have won by more. The loss to Peel Thunder was down to a poor first half and a lack of discipline, and also their loss to Claremont. Okay, it was a close one, but they just let that one slip. They've barely got out of second gear this year.
This might be the game they get their act in order. They're
they
still
need
5-2. Had they not lost to Peel on the weekend, they could have almost been top of the ladder on the weekend. But obviously Claremont lost as well, and South's loss sees them a game still behind. I think they'll get their act together, the Bulldogs. Craig White's a great coach. They've got depth in their reserves. The Sharks don't. You only have to look down the bottom of the reserves ladder. A percentage of 36 for East Fremantle. I've got a trivia question for you on the Around the Waffle audience. When was the last time that East Fremantle won a WA Day Derby? So on the long weekend.
It's a very long time. It's years. I know they've won derbies, but the second one of the year, it must be around a decade.
You're right. 2016 was the last time East Fremantle conquered the public holiday. They've had a couple of narrow losses in there, but again, as I said earlier, you don't get any additional points for gallant defeats. So can the Sharks break a 10-year hoodoo? We've only got one more of these, Paul, because next year is the last year of the WA Day public holiday here in Perth. It moves to November, and that'll mean we have to reschedule that derby, which is a bit of blow.
I honestly am not going to buy that argument because I'm still going to call it WA Day, and that's just from my personal opinion. And for the WAFL, even if there is one more, still stage it on the first Monday of June. You can't get rid of the tradition because of knee-jerk reactions due to the weather conditions. That's all I'm going to say. Roger Cook, I'm talking to you. Let's get out of the politics for a second because we'll get in trouble. The second derby on the WA Day, it's the Perth Derby, quote-unquote. It's West Perth and East Perth from HIF Health Insurance Oval, live on 7plus at 2:30. Wet conditions forecast, as we mentioned. West Perth 0-7. It's going to be a steep task for them to break that drought because East Perth, they're going to be high on confidence after inflicting Claremont's first loss of the season.
They're getting better, East Perth.
No
doubt about that. Their 7 inclusions all added something last week, and Tom North was out. So he was one of the 7 who went out. He had personal reasons that caused him to miss that game. He'll be back this week. So he's an inclusion on top of the players that they added in their last game. Hamish Brayshaw's building into form nicely. Scott Jones in the ruck has been a constant this year. Stan Wright looks back to his best. Liam Tedesco's a huge inclusion, and Falcons fans know how good he is. He started at West Perth. So this could get ugly. I don't think West Perth are in a great spot. I know you're probably deep down you've got a soft spot for the Falcons, Paul, but I just think they're going to struggle for the rest of this year. When will they win their first game? Because they're 0-7 and it looks a tough first season in charge for Paul Sanzoni.
Yeah, absolutely. But they're going through a turnover period. I think they're going to have a lot of significant turnover at the end of the year because, they're building a lot of young talent. They got some decent depth in their Colts. They're currently contending for the 5. Their reserves are a bit so-and-so, but, the Colts are definitely going to have a look in 2027, 28 in particular. But, I have a feeling that despite, Kane Bevan being kept in that side, not getting picked up in the mid-season drafts, a bit of a blessing in disguise, obviously. But it's going to be a long afternoon because East Perth, they're high on confidence. They finally got into top gear after a few suspect performances during the early stages of the season. Ross McQueen, he's a hell of a coach. He's got a great reputation for success through Claremont in the underage competitions and now to East Perth with 2 straight grand finals. I don't want East Perth to take West Perth lightly because even though they're at opposite ends of the ladder, it can always be a bit of a danger game, a bit of a red herring to some teams. So I want East Perth, to take this approach as they would with any other game, respect the quality of the opposition, no matter if it's up there or down the bottom end of the ladder. So I want East Perth to go in non-complacent, despite West Perth being at the bottom end of the ladder.
Yeah, and that's where they have to be because they can't afford to lose a game they're expected to win. They've left themselves with work to do by being 4-3. They've only just gone the right side of the win-loss ledger. It's been an up-and-down season. They've made 2 grand finals. You don't get back there. You're not guaranteed because of your previous season's deeds. So Ross McQueen will certainly be hammering home that message. And for West Perth, the message from here will be, well, we're not going to play finals, but gee, we can upset a few teams. We can shape the remainder of this season. We need the nourishment of victory as a young group, and certainly the coach needs wins. Doesn't matter if he's in his first year or his 8th. Paul Sanzoni will feel the pressure if the wins don't come. So West Perth will want to upset the East Perth party at Arena Joondalup on Monday.
But I don't think it's going to happen. I think the task is going to be too steep when you're looking at it. Okay, they've got Kane Bevan, who's been one of West Perth's more consistent players in midfield. Tyler Keitel, again, is being relied upon in that forward line. But the problem is, the forward line's getting very brittle, I'd have to say. Keitel's being that option. Keegan Knott's been in and out of the league side. So it's going to be one steep mountain. It's like Mount Everest, but I'm afraid West Perth are not going to find it climbable.
Well, the fact that Noah Pecoraro, his season was over before it started. I mean, he was brought back to the club this year. Premiership player, swingman, can play at either end of the ground. Knee concern doesn't sound good for his future beyond this
arthritic.
year. Yeah, so if you've got arthritis in your knees, far from me or you to say, we're not doctors, Paul, but that doesn't sound good for his long-term health, and hopefully he's able to make a full recovery. But won't be seen this year in all likelihood, and he's missed because he could give Krstel that support. He could also go down back if needed, and him not being there robs the Falcons of a really crucial piece of their puzzle.
With all that considered, it's no surprise we've both gone with East Perth quite comfortably in the end. But what a weekend nonetheless of WA Day weekend football. One of the best in the WA football calendar. We'll clear a break, and when we do come back, we're going to go over to the WAFL W portion of our show. And before we preview the round 9 action of the ATCO WAFL W competition, we're speaking to a dead set gun, the reigning Dara Kerr medalist, one of my personal favourite players in the WAFL W competition, Krstel Petrevski. And that is coming up right after the break.
Take it from me, great things happen at the WAFL.
Valentine rides and goals.
With free entry for kids, future stars on the ground, and a kick to kick at every break. The WAFL is where footy memories start and legends are made. Follow the WAFL on socials or get to a game.
Hey Siri, how to connect Bluetooth to Mac truck?
Sullivan 2, what's your position?
Just a midfielder, mate.
On your left. Oh, come on, get out of the way.
Car Stereo Morley, proudly supplying and fitting quality car stereos for over 15 years, selling top name brands like Alpine, Focal, Rockford Fosgate. From a simple upgrade to complete custom systems, stop in and see Grant and the boys at 61 Russell Street, Morley, or visit us online at carstereo.com.au.
Back with us here on Around the WAFL. It's our Thursday night preview show. We're building up to the big WA Day long weekend of football. And while, of course, we see the derbies in the men's competition on the Monday, we've had a recent time in the WAFL W that one or both derbies are on a Friday night. So the ATCO WAFL W competition building its own identity on WA Day long weekend to have the big rivalry matches on a Friday night.
I like it, yep. It gives the ladies their time to shine, which is thoroughly deserved. And our next guest is certainly in that star category, isn't she, with what she's done over the last couple of years.
I think that's an understatement. Not only she's the Sarah Michelle medalist 2 years in a row, is also the Dara Kerr medalist from 2025 and also the reigning Around the WAFL's WAFL W Player of the Year. She's got the number 31 on her back and she's good enough to join us here ahead of their Friday night clash with league leaders Swan Districts. Krstel Petrevski is joining us here on Around the WAFL. Hello, Krstel. Welcome to the show.
Hello, team. Thank you. Thank you for having me on. And that was a pretty incredible intro there.
Oh, it's well earned.
Just KP, so.
It's well earned. It's because of the achievements that you've accumulated in less than 2 years. Simply incredible. And not just that, also state game performance that she had a couple of weeks ago. Friday night, Swan Districts, big challenge for your side. It could be a clash that may set your side up for another charge toward the top two. How are you and the side feeling heading into this big Friday night game?
Yeah, obviously exciting to play under lights on a Friday night and obviously Subiaco hosting, so good opportunity for us to host a home game against the top of the table, which is, for us, I think it's a good opportunity to test one, where we sit, where how does our game plan, how do we stack up against the best in the competition, and then two, just to put on a good show of footy. I think when you get games like these, I love playing them because they're so competitive. And, you never know who's going to win until the final siren goes, which we learnt last week. But yeah, looking forward to it. And, yeah, it should be a good game.
It's a pretty important game, isn't it, Krstel? Great to have you part of the show and great to have it under Friday Night Lights. But the disappointment of last week and I guess the disappointment of how last season finished must be driving you this year.
Yeah, look, just to break it down, obviously coming off, last year, in terms of the season, Subiaco Footy Club, in terms of that we had, obviously it was pretty incredible. And, we had a really good home and away season in terms of wins on the board and then dropping out in straight sets. So this year we've managed to retain all our players. However, we did lose a few in the draft and a few through retiring. So in terms of saying we are the same team, but we're also not the same team that we were last year. So for us, is how do we build off last year, but then how do we adjust to the players that we're bringing in, to what footy looks like for us in 2026. So obviously at our start, we've got a pretty, we've lost some, we've won some, so we're still just finding our feet. But, for us, it's important to continue to build with the process and work out what our best footy looks like and obviously be playing our best brand of footy at the end of the year when we need to be, but also finding little wins along the way to get us there. So tomorrow night will be a really good opportunity for that. I think just to, see how we go against the top of the table at the moment.
And while obviously you've lost a couple of players due to the draft and retirement as well, you've been able to retain some of your good core stock from last year. That makes the drive even greater, doesn't it? And that, really motivates the side to perform against, some of the big teams that are in that top four, like East Fremantle last weekend and Swan Districts. And how does a side like that able to maintain its drive across the year, not just through the professionalism of the playing group, including yourself, but also the coach, Baker Denham, and how does he instill that into the side?
Yeah, definitely. Like you said, we've managed to recruit some really, really talented, some really good players over the off-season, and also through our Subi programs with our Rogers Cup, we've managed to, a lot of our kids coming up have developed through our program, through our pathway, and we've got some really talented footballers there. So for us, obviously, one is, having Baker sign on again and having, again, that retention of players that we've managed to keep, a lot of our core players. It's just implementing through our program what Subiaco footy looks like, training that way and trying to train at a high standard, one becomes very important because, we're trying to teach habits and trying to implement habits on how we want to play. And I'm a big believer in you train the way you play with a bit of balance with that as well. So that's been really important. I think, two, education on footy is a big one. For me in particular, like players that knowing the game, and for us over the last few weeks, that's kind of where we got caught at off guard. It's just a bit of game situation and game scenario and players thinking before messages are being sent down to from coaches. So, again, that's learning with playing. So getting our players, our younger players and particularly playing footy and playing senior footy with us older girls is another one that's really important. And then, two, finding that balance. Like, we play footy because we love it. And we spend so much time at footy because we love, one, the community we've built around it. So our culture and the people we have within our four walls is a huge reason why we manage to retain players and keep players. And then, two, finding ways to challenge each other. So continuing to find ways to get better, although we're also comfortable with each other is a big one.
Yeah, looks like you're building something sustainable, Krstel, at the Lions. Just to go back a couple of weeks to the state game, a drought-breaking win for our women's program against the SANFL Women's. How special was that for a day for WA football to be involved?
Yeah, it was pretty incredible. Hey, someone born in Western Australia and who is a West Aussie. I obviously went to school in Victoria, so a lot of my junior footy and my football was played in Victoria. So this was actually the second time I've ever donned the Swan, which is pretty incredible. And you hold a lot of pride and to reason as to why you want to represent your state and wear that jersey, So, credit to the WAFL and for putting on the footy we did, like having 3 games played on the one day at the same venue, at a WAFL venue, which is one, you're celebrating and you're really putting on show at WAFL venues, but then 2, the standard of footy and the players that we have in Western Australia. It's pretty incredible to play. And then, obviously, for myself personally, when you play games like that, I tend to reflect a lot and, you're never going to play footy with the same girls and the same players you do that week ever again. You might play with a few here and there, but in terms of the team we had, we're never going to play with those girls again. And all of those relationships that I've built with those girls are from footy. So it's pretty, I don't know how you want to, like, what do you call it, but it's kind of like a pinch yourself moment when you go, holy hell, we're winning by like 90 points here, and you're playing with some of your best mates, but then two girls you've known your whole life what footy had brought you together, which is a nice reflection piece as well.
It certainly was a special moment, not just for your career, but all those that you were alongside as part of the WA state team. It was a big day. It's going to be a big night on Friday night, tackling the league leaders, Swan Districts. Krstel, we wish you all the very best for that big game on Friday night. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Superstar Krstel Petrevski joining us from the Subiaco Football Club. Massive game coming up for them against Swan Districts. We're going to preview that one right now here on Around the WAFL. Yes, that was Krstel Petrevski, superstar of the Subiaco Football Club. Big Friday night game for her Lions against Swan Districts, and that's where we're going to start. 7:20, live on the official WAFL YouTube channel, your home of WAFLW football in 2026. And remember that last meeting, the preliminary final, Swan Districts just sneaking ahead by 2 points. There's going to be the fire in the belly for the Lions, but so too for the Swans after their winning streak was snapped. So plenty riding on this game.
Absolutely. Swans' bit of a setback last week. I do think Subiaco will go into this game confident. They lost to East Amanda last week. Great win for the Sharks. But they kicked inaccurately, Subi. They didn't play poorly. They just kicked poorly in front of goal. So it wouldn't surprise me if Subi can arrest that. Krstel Petrevski will have a big role to play there. You mentioned the pain and disappointment of last season for Subi, how it finished. I didn't really want to harp on that too long with Krstel just now. I think they're a very good chance of causing a boil over here and handing Swans consecutive defeats.
Well, you do present a case for, the likes of Petrevski, but she's got great support in midfield. Paige Shepherd, Lisa Steen, they're racking up possessions for fun, it seems, though, at Subiaco, and they're playing to great effect as well as part of that midfield rotation. Their forward line's still a concern. We do harp on it week in, week out, but it's a fact. When they lost Olivia Woolmarins because of the AFLW draft, their forward line dynamic has not been the same. But having said that, they've got the likes of Sunny K. Peters kicking some goals as well, and they've got Shepherd and Steen drifting up to the midfield. And especially when you're looking at, the midfield weapons that they have got in comparison to Swan Districts, they're pretty much evenly matched.
I think it's a really good battle, and I think it's going to be tough to separate those midfield groups that you mentioned. Who has more potency up forward? I guess if the midfield battle's won by a particular team, well, that might take care of the forward line battle for the respective teams. But I think Subi have got enough up forward to get the job done as well in a classic game under Friday night lights.
The back line for Swan Districts will still be at a disadvantage because, obviously, as you know, Bella Edgley, one of the Swans' key defenders, number one defender at Swan Districts, hurt her shoulder a few weeks ago and hasn't been seen since. So the back line dynamic has been a little bit thrown off. But when you're looking at the likes of Edwards, Baker, Quaife in the ruck, they've got tremendous depth. And Emily Maguire up forward, she's got great ability, great pace to keep her feet inside the 50.
How good was her grand final performance?
Oh, brilliant.
I mean, just one of the unbelievable efforts unfortunately in a losing cause, but she was almost the hero for Swans last year.
Don't forget Summer Yaron as well.
Yes, she was fantastic too. So those two outstanding prospects up forward. I think it'll be a really good game of footy, but just leaning towards the Lions.
I'm going to go the other way. I reckon the Swans will bounce back. It's not bad to go into a game after a loss. You don't want to be undefeated in the season. That creates a lot of pressure on the club and the players and the coaches as well. So I reckon they'll bounce back, but it's going to be a hell of a game to kick off a big long weekend. And if you thought that was going to be a great way to kick it off, we go to a derby.
Grudge match.
Friday night, Good Grocer Park, 7:25 live on the WAFL YouTube channel, East Fremantle and South Fremantle. Second meeting of the year, mind you, because remember, round one, South Fremantle got the better of the Sharks. Ash Gomes, first game against her old side. How will the Sharks respond after being held to 4 behinds in round one?
Well, it was David Eames' debut as coach, wasn't it? It wasn't a memorable start. Had him on Sport FM that week, and he said, look, we don't want to be a team that kicks 1 or 2 goals. Well, they didn't kick any in that game. They've been far better since. Look, there was a lot of talk about cultural issues at East Fremantle in the off-season and, players leaving and a bit of dissatisfaction. Now, what happens off the field's different to what happens on the field. But you've got to say, Paul, at the moment, on the field, second on the ladder, probably most people, including me, had East Fremantle's women's program sliding this year. They could still slide. They've been a consistent top 3, top 4 team, knocked out by Swans in elimination final last year. The Sharks look as though they're holding up okay. They've got a good system. David Eames has got good experience as a coach, and I think the Sharks might turn the tables on that round one result and have a win.
They could do because, they've got a really good young side, and a young side creates a lot more hunger. And, with the loss of Noah McNaughton to the AFLW draft at the Fremantle Dockers, it hasn't really been a big loss. And why I say a big loss, because East Fremantle's depth is still very strong. You've got the likes of Jersey Erskine Brown and a couple of others in the forward line that are going to be a real big key as well. when you're looking at the way they control the game in the back line, especially against the likes of Subiaco and Claremont in particular, who they beat at home, then that is going to be one point of intrigue for East Fremantle to see if they can hold off the likes of South Fremantle. They've got a rampant midfield unit led by Ash Gomes. They've got Tua Carena, Gilchrist, and also a couple of others as well. I reckon that can boost the South Fremantle chances, but with the wet conditions and the record that East Fremantle have at the Good Grosser Park, it could sway the game in the Sharks' favour. But you talk about coaches, Dave Eames in his first year, Pierre Folletti, the South Fremantle coach, has done a wonderful job with this playing group at South Fremantle, has got them in a pretty good position. They're still contending for a spot in the 4. The latter, of course, sees South Fremantle half a game outside the 4, mind you, with Perth and Subiaco just ahead of them on percentage and points respectively. So if South Fremantle can get up here, that's a huge opportunity for them to possibly leap back into the 4.
Absolutely, and East Fremantle technically third. They're equal second. They were second briefly until Claremont's dominant win on Sunday. So the Sharks third, Claremont second, Swans the standout team early on in this season, but many twists and turns left. That's a great thing about a season, isn't it, Paul? It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Absolutely.
And the sprinters can often be overrun by the marathon runners. So we'll see what happens in the back half of the year.
You've gone East Fremantle. I've gone the same way as well. I reckon that midfield, the young midfield that they've got, has a little bit more hunger in that side. So I reckon East Fremantle will get up. And the record they have at Good Grosser Park on the Friday nights, it's a great situation for them. They love playing over there on the Friday nights. It's a nice ground to have a night football in with the dog park in there, and it creates a nice intimate atmosphere as well. So I reckon the Sharks will be well suited to it.
Now, am I allowed to do this on Around the Waffle, Paul? Can I have a fins up?
You know what? Just for the fun of it. Just for the fun of it. We rarely do that, so what the hell?
For the Sharks
on
Friday night in the Derby.
You've brought everything today here on Around the Waffle.
Are you doing a fins up as well, or is that banned? Is it only I'm allowed to bring in?
I'm usually the straight man of the show.
Okay. All right. I'll allow you to go without a fins up. I'll give you another one then.
There we go. At least that's fair. Now we go over to the Saturday night action. Another night game in the WAFLW competition. 5:05 at HIF Health Insurance Oval on the WAFL YouTube channel. East Perth and West Perth. Now this one also is a must-win for West Perth after they lost to Perth, conceded their first loss to the Demons. And East Perth, they're a young side. They got the likes of Greenwood in there. Liz McGrath has obviously gone to the Eagles in the AFLW setup, so they've lost a little bit of depth there. But I reckon the likes of a couple of other players from the East Perth side who are usually bottom ages in that side can give West Perth a bit of a fright because the weather conditions aren't usually conducive to good West Perth football.
Well, East Perth coming off a very narrow win last round, so they've got some confidence behind them.
Brooke Edwards, what a starring role she played.
Absolutely, and look, you mentioned Greenwood's name there. She had a really good state game. She was outstanding. So they've got some weapons, but as you said, there's a lot on the line for West Perth. And the side of your arch rivals is normally to bring the best out of you in a game like this, I would imagine. So I think West Perth will be winning this one, but East Perth with a bit more confidence.
And I think the midfield for West Perth really has to get going because they really struggled against Perth because the delivery they gave to Poppy Stockwell, the Perth side, last week was absolutely brilliant. And the likes of Francis Bateman, a couple of others, and Zoe Huggett in the forward line who struggled for form last week against Perth, that is going to be under the microscope. I'm expecting Huggett to kick a big bag to really reinforce herself as one of the number one forwards in the competition. Former South Fremantle players now in her first season at West Perth, has been on a bit of a up and down patch of form, but if she can kick a big bag against the young East Perth backline, then that's going to really restore the confidence in the West Perth forward setup.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I think East Perth will be plucky, but I think ultimately West Perth will be too strong across the 4 quarters. A
night derby in the WAFLW. We talked about it earlier. Obviously, this one being on a Saturday night after most of the men's league games have been completed. Only 2 of them, mind you, on that Saturday afternoon. It does give this game and the bit of the WAFLW a bit of breathing space. So, I like what WA Football have done with this game, making a sort of standalone fixture in the WAFLW competition.
Well, give credit where it's due. WA Football, and I think the clubs too, because the clubs play a major role in when these games are played. They basically dictate it. We can't have every game played at 2:30 on a Saturday. So we've got to mix things up. We've got to bring a new audience to the game. And hopefully this is something we see a bit more, whether it's the women's program, even if it's the men. I know we've got a Friday night men's game coming up soon. So I think it can only be good for the competition.
West Perth, meanwhile, they have the wood on East Perth. Played 6, won 6. Will the streak continue? I say yes.
I say yes as well.
7 straight wins we've predicted for West Perth. But you never know. In these conditions, it is the great leveller, as it will be in the WA Day long weekend. And then Sunday, standalone match at 12:10, the only daytime match of the weekend to finish off, not just on the WAFL YouTube channel, but live on 91.3 Sport FM. Great to have Sport FM supporting WAFLW as well. It is reigning premiers Claremont taking on Perth. Some are saying Claremont by how much? I don't think that's the case. Perth have been a very competitive side. They've so far defied expectations, and all of a sudden they're contending for a spot on the 4, so they'll give themselves a chance, and they've got the experienced Steph Wadling, a former premiership coach at East Fremantle, at the helm at Demonland, so they're every chance.
I agree. Yeah, look, I think what they're building is pretty special, considering they're one of the newer clubs in the competition. It's been quite rapid, hasn't it, their rise from only a year ago when, that first win arrived, and from there they've gone to greater heights, and I think it's a really good sign for Perth Football Club. I mean, we know what their men's program's trying to do, and maybe the women's program can ride the wave as well, and they've got goal-scoring potency, which not all new teams do. Let's be honest, when teams first come in, and you look at an East Perth when they started, they had real struggles to score, but Perth seem to have avenues to goal, which is really exciting for them, and I think they're going to be more than plucky here. Claremont coming off a great win last week. Sometimes it's about getting up for a big game against Swans. Is there a letdown after that in this game? You'd hope not. Jack Schwartz runs a very tight ship there at the Tigers. But I do sense this is a bit of a danger game for the Tigers.
Yeah, you'd think so, especially with, going up against Perth. It could be a bit of a red herring for some teams this season. They've had some great wins on the board so far in 2026, including holding South Fremantle to a draw in the opening first couple of rounds of the season. And when you're looking at their potency up forward, they've got Stockwell there. Karlshausen can, kick a couple of goals here and there. Their midfield also very strong, and they could match it with the likes of Claremont. Molly Warren in the ruck, very impressive this season, averaging over 25 hitouts, and Isabella Shannon, runner-up in the Dara Kerr medal last year, averaging 30 as well. So it's going to be a very good matchup between both midfield units. I'm really looking forward to seeing the likes of Shannon take on Jamie Harkin.
Absolutely, there's great matchups everywhere, but if I'm Perth, I'm just clearing out the forward 50. Give Poppy all the space in the world. When you've kicked 7 goals in any game of football, the next week, there's going to be interest around how she plays, right? And any forward, at any level, men's or women's. So clear out the forward 50 and give her the space. We've seen what she can do. She kicked 4 in the state game. She's kicked 7 on the weekend for Perth. She's, to use a cricket term, she's seeing them like beach balls. So give her the space and see what she can do and put Claremont under pressure. Now, I doubt Jack Schwartz will allow that. If they were to try and play one out, they'd fold a few numbers back. But it would be great to see Poppy Stockwell just continue her great form.
It is, but having said that, I've gone Claremont in this one, but only by about 2 goals. I feel it's going to be very, very close in the wet conditions that are forecast across the weekend. And you've also got, the efficiency of Harkin, Ruby Sargent-Wilson, who I spoke with after the game last Sunday. You can check that out on our socials. And also the likes of the Ortlips, especially delivering it into the forward line. And the back line, they work overtime against any forward line, and they did against Swan Districts, holding them to just 1 goal. Claremont by about 2 goals. You've gone with Claremont as well.
Similar margin.
So it's a huge round of football coming up. A great game spread over 4 days, and the fans, they can watch to their heart's content.
Well, that's what we want, isn't it? I mean, we've got a bit of spare time over the weekend. It's a long weekend. We're celebrating West Australia, and what better way to celebrate than get to West Australian football? We've got the Eagles on Sunday night against Essendon in the AFL, and then you've got an opportunity to get to the WAFL Women's, and support state footy. How good?
Oh, it doesn't get better than that, especially on the best weekend of the year, beside the grand final, of course. We're going to clear one final break, and when we do come back, we're taking the show on the road, going on location, speaking with Peel's new find, Lockie Tardrew, the former Collingwood VFL skipper who played over 100 games in the VFL side at Magpie Land, to see how he's settling in to the land of the Thunder. Stay where you are. We'll be back right after this.
Take it from me, great things happen at the WAFL.
Valentine roads and goals.
With free entry for kids, future stars on the ground, and a kick-to-kick at every break. The WAFL is where footy memories start and legends are made. Follow the WAFL on socials or get to a game.
Hey Siri, how to connect Bluetooth to Mac truck?
Sullivan 2, what's your position?
Just a midfielder, mate. On your left. Oh, come on, get out of the way.
Stereo Morley. Proudly supplying and fitting quality car stereos for over 15 years. Selling top name brands like Alpine, Focal, Rockford Fosgate. From a simple upgrade to complete custom systems. Stop in and see Grant and the boys at 61 Russell Street, Morley. Or visit us online at carstereo.com.au.
This is Around the Waffle. We're building up to the WA Day long weekend. It's on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. Paul Persick and Jacob Landsmeer are with you. Now, Peel Thunder, they're one of the clubs that have been under the microscope this year because they've, after their lean year last year in 2025 where they had injuries and missed the five as a result, they really went out on the recruiting table. And one of the finds really stands out, who was skipper of Collingwood's VFL side.
Lockie Tardrew's had a really impressive start, played state football for his adopted state as well, so straight into the team and didn't look out of place on that day. I must say it's an interesting subject, what we see with Peel Thunder from here. So they've got 14 dockers available at any one time. They've got 3 interstate recruits, of which Tardrew's one, Caldo's another. They've got some experience there amongst those Victorian additions. Toby Costa's played in the ruck when time has been needed as well. But that doesn't leave a lot of spots for the locals. So how do they use those local spots? Jack Sears is the skipper, Scott Toohey is the vice-captain, so they're guaranteed. Tregenza's a lock-up forward. So all of a sudden, you've only got probably 3 spots up for grabs for locals every week. And that's going to have a flow-on effect over the years to come if that's how it continues.
But Tardrew can be a bit of an exception because of the experience and professionalism that he brings. And I spoke with him during the week as we take Around the Waffle on location to Lane Group Stadium for the first time in 2026 to find out what makes Lockie Tardrew tick. After a lean 2025 where injuries curtailed their plans of a premiership defence, Peel Thunder had a ruthless off-season at the recruiting table. Among the new signings this season, one is a country boy at heart that made his way out west and found a home in Mandurah.
Being from the country myself, I think that was probably the big enticing factor as well. And I knew obviously having the alignment with Fremantle and the access to all the coaching staff and the facilities and just the players as well, I knew that's probably going to give me my best chance to bring out my best football.
Tardrew's biggest asset of his game this year has been his tackling. He has managed to accumulate 10 or more tackles on 2 occasions. While he only had 2 last week against South, his effectiveness all round the ball was a key against the reigning premiers.
For us, it's obviously just sticking to our game plan and our structure and backing that it'll work. I know we fell short 2 weeks in a row, 1 point. And we're probably losing to ourselves more than anything. So just backing our system and knowing that it's going to work, we sort of trusted that if we go in our game plan that we'll get a red hot crack and we managed to get the chocolates on the weekend.
Prior to this year, Tardrew had played 100 games at Collingwood in the VFL and was captain during his career at the Magpies. In 2021, he won the club's best and fairest. But how does playing in a congested VFL competition compare to playing in the WAFL?
It's been awesome in terms of being welcomed in by the boys, the coaching staff and all the community around Mandurah and Peel. So, I felt very welcomed and, it's great to be playing at a high level.
And while Tardrew has had many clubs across Australia scouting him for his services in season 2026, it was the community aspect of Peel Thunder Football Club that swayed Tardrew to sign with the 2024 Premiers. And that is something he has thrived on all his life and career.
Boys that I see throughout training throughout the week, just those guys that have day jobs and uni and then whatever it is, and then having to come to training and still try and connect and be the same as the AFL boys. So I really admire all those that go about it, apply their trade and then still show up for football.
And to thrive in a landscape like this, match fitness must be number one on a player's radar. Lockie takes it as seriously as anything in his fitness and preparation, reflecting the standards set by coach Adam Reid.
The amount of hours he puts in, I've seen different avenues of football and the amount that he commits, how hard working he is and devoted to the job, it's second to none. And there's obviously a reason that he's a head coach here, and I think in the future he's definitely going to go higher, and he definitely deserves to.
Well, he might be a country boy at heart, but Lockie Tardrew has taken to the hustle and bustle of the WAFL like a duck to water and has continued to prove himself as one of the best first-year finds in the WAFL competition in season 2026. His running and tackling, his consistency and his versatility make him one of the best players in the competition. And dare I say it, he could be a Sandover medal bolter if he keeps this consistency up. At Lane Group Stadium in Mandurah, Paul Persick on location for Around the Waffle. the old saying, you can take the country out of the boy, but not the boy out of the country, so to speak, as far as the environment is concerned. Going over to Mandurah, he's a country boy at heart, and he's settled in quite well over there at Peel.
Safe to say Mandurah's a long way from home for Lockie Tarju, but he's making it his home at the moment. He's a school teacher. Works out in Mundajong, so he's got that nice balance. I think for WAFL footballers to be a teacher's great because you're at work sort of 8 till 3, 3:30. You can jump in the car and get to footy training. So it looks like he's got that good life balance over here with his partner as well.
Well, that's at the school. That's not the only place he's doing the teaching. He's been doing the teaching on the football field. He's teaching the opponents how to play.
Well, he's educating a few of his opponents, I think, with the way that he's playing at the moment. He's been outstanding through 7 rounds.
He certainly has been. Maybe a Sandover bolter, dare I say, with the tackles that he has made. He's a tackling machine, and he can run for hours. I spoke with their runner on Tuesday night, putting together that piece, and he can run for hours non-stop.
Well, Jeremy Sharp might take some votes off him. I mentioned earlier he's my prediction at 7 rounds in to be leading, but yeah, El Tardru might be a name we hear from Luke Sanders a bit on Sandover Medal Night.
Well, we certainly will, no doubt about that. That does it for today's edition of Around the Waffle. First of all, Jacob, thanks so much for coming in. We really do appreciate it. Looking forward to hearing you on the airwaves down at Leadup on Saturday and, of course, at Fremantle on Monday.
Should be a great weekend, Paul. Thanks for inviting me. And, yeah, if you've got a spare few minutes to listen to Sport FM's award-winning coverage, we'd love to have you part of it. Claremont away to Subi and then South Fremantle, East Fremantle over the weekend. So enjoy WA Day and enjoy a great weekend at WA Footy. Thanks for having me.
No problem, Jacob. All the best here. Keep that voice nice and prepared. Listeners and viewers, another fins up. You've got 3 of those. I love it. Listeners and viewers, we thank you so much for your company as well. We'll keep you right up to date across the weekend with our scoreboard, thanks to District Promotions right across the weekend. And you can check us out on our socials, Facebook and Instagram. Ethan Roth will be back with us on Monday, or Tuesday rather, to recap the WA Day round, since all the big matches are on Monday. So our recap show will be shifted to Tuesday night. Set your calendars for that as well. Have a great long weekend of footy. Enjoy WA Day. We'll see you on Tuesday night.